Good evening, everyone. I'm Ai Guardiola from Online Healing Community, and welcome to Creating Space. Um, Once a month, we'll be discussing topics related to arts, culture, and spirituality, and community also. So, tonight, we're going to talk about how to bridge the gap or how to bridge our differences. And we're joined tonight by a guest who's one of the facilitators and teachers of online healing community since March 2020. So she's a self-love solutions teacher, a yoga teacher, and a Reiki master. So let's all welcome teacher Lay Santa Maria.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me, Ai.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, teacher Lay. And so tonight, it's a very timely topic, no, that we're going to discuss. So I throw the first question right ahead, no. Why do you think this is a very important topic to talk about?
You know what? Because I think now more than ever, now is the time that we really need to work things out, to collaborate, and to be able to really bridge the gap and try to see where in the middle can we meet and, be able to, at the end of the day, we would want to lift everyone up. And how can we reach that? So, right now,
Mhm.
we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So,
Yeah.
we let's try to see ourselves thriving during this pandemic. And how do we do that? We have to work on ourselves first, and we have to, work our differences first. And how can we do that? I think first, um, I think we have to think about how do we want others to treat us back. So I think it can begin there, no? So we have to treat others how we want to be treated. Do we want to be respected? Then that's what we also have to do with others. Um, at the end of the day, again, what we put out there, that's what we get back. And if we keep that in mind, I think we'll all be more mindful when it comes to dealing with different kinds of people, with different kinds of opinions, who make different kinds of decisions. Because, that's the kind of space that we want to create, right? And when we come from that space, I would really love to think that that space is of a non-judgment one. Now when it's a space wherein differences or uniqueness, we can call that too, diba? Instead of looking at it as different, it could be unique. We could consciously choose to respond rather than react, right? I know that our emotions get the best of us, and it's okay. We can be forgiving about that, especially to ourselves. But let's try to remember again, we all have different experiences, we all have different upbringings, we all have different beliefs. But at the end of the day, we are all connected to each other. And so let's try to first treat others how we want to be treated. And the next, let's create a space of non judgment so that we can choose to respond instead of reacting to them. Not labeling what they are doing, not labeling people, and, try to understand where are people coming from, right?
Right. And actually, while preparing for this interview, or actually, it's more of a conversation, right? What we did was come up with our own um, like guidelines based on our individual experiences, and then we compared notes and merged them into these. Actually, we have come up with top seven,
Seven,
seven
yes.
for now. So it's in no particular order, and it's in. I mean, each each element is um, as important as the next one, and everything's interrelated.
Yes, yes.
But we just um,
We
like
just wanted to
organized it
be
in.
more systematic there.
Yes, we
We
let it
wanted to.
flow.
Mhm.
Yes, and it's more organic in its in terms
Yeah,
of
when you
steps.
think about it, diba? It's really
Yeah.
about, and when we came up with this, it's really from
Hmm.
our experiences and our beliefs that we want to
Hmm.
share with those who are watching us right now.
Cool. All right. So, okay. So, coming from a space of non judgment, that's where you left off. And that's where we will pick off from on the third tip, which is to respond with loving kindness and non injury. So, as Teacher Lay said, not, reacting from a certain program or limiting belief system, but really trying to be there and hold space and try not to be um because in my experience, so I was exposed in the peace building field of work. So in peace building, we learn about concepts in how to transform conflict. And the first thing you learn when you go through a conflict transformation 101 workshop is to learn that actually differences or conflicting perspectives are natural because, as Lay said, we come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different belief systems. We grow up in a particular way of life and
Yeah.
looking at the world. So that's actually it's normal to experience conflicting perspectives and attitudes, but the key is in knowing how to
To
handle it in a
respond.
healthy
Yeah.
manner and not letting it escalate into violent
Violence.
conflict. Yeah, violent conflict. So for example, if I ask myself, have I ever been violent? Probably physically not really, but psychologically, verbally, I have really um inflicted violence, even on the level of thoughts. I can be quite critical to myself and to others.
Until
And
others.
I've yeah, and there's also times when, when I was triggered and I would speak harshly. So
Mhm.
so this is an important step. Try to consciously respond with loving
With
kindness,
loving kindness.
trying trying to understand where the other person is coming from, and most importantly, with non-injury. Because it's each of us has our own inner wisdom, inner knowing, and even if someone, for example, did not um, come from a like the formal education background, like
Mm.
hindi graduate from the formal school,
Mm, mhm, mhm.
that person has lived through life. It means ang dami niyang wisdom na pinangahawakan galing sa mga elders niya, galing sa na-experience niya araw-araw, no?
Experiences. That's right.
So, yeah, let's see people from that perspective, and in that way we'll be able to be more compassionate and kind.
Yes,
And the next,
exactly.
do you want to add anything?
Ah, yeah, kasi it goes back to how do you want to be treated, right?
Yes,
Then
exactly.
that's how you will
Mm-hmm.
treat that person. No matter what
Mm-hmm.
educational background, no matter what cultural background or race or, diba? So we're coming from that
Ideology.
again. Yes, and then we could go
Mm-hmm.
back again to that space of non-judgment. Let's not label whatever it is,
Exactly.
diba? And that's showing loving kindness. That's practicing compassion already.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the fourth step or first fourth tip, which is to also practice non-violent speech or communication. So this is an essential factor because usually, like I said earlier, we can be um, we're probably not violent physically, like we don't really punch punch the other person in the face when they don't agree with us, but we may be using very harsh words, and usually it it comes in negative labels. Like for example, um, this is what I noticed. For example, in terms of the anti-vaxxers and the
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pro-vaxxers, or the what people would label as pro-admin or anti-admin. Usually the reaction would be because the other person has chosen to support this
Mm-hmm.
particular party,
Mm-hmm.
and because I can't understand why based on my own judgment, so I would immediately label that person as stupid or
Or something
yeah,
else.
so something else,
Yeah.
derogatory terms, and you
Derogatory
see this
terms.
a lot in social media
Social media,
and a lot
that's
of.
right.
So have you experienced being blocked or unfriended by someone just because of differences in opinion?
Differences. That's right.
So this
And
is
you know what?
going
We're not
on.
saying we're not saying that it's bad to do that have because that might be your
Mhm.
form of self-care and that might be your
Yeah,
form
yeah,
of putting boundaries. But what we're
true,
trying to
true,
say is be what it takes to be mindful when it comes to the words that you use,
exactly.
right?
Because just
Because
imagine being friends with someone for 20 years and having gone through a lot with that person, and just because of one instance where out of
mhm, mhm.
very heavy emotions you uttered something nasty to that person, and then and then your friendship is over.
Yes.
It's like
Mhm.
sayang naman
Have you
yung
seen
20 years
have you
mo,
seen
diba?
posts
Oh,
wherein they say we have to normalize this thought that you and I can believe in different things or totally
exactly.
opposite things, but we can still be friends, right?
And
However,
coexist.
and coexist. However, again, it all boils down to I saw one comment, respect is the word, right?
Yes.
That's totally fine. There you go. So
And be
respect is the word
compassionate.
and be compassionate. Because at the end of the day, it's about respecting yourself and then other people's beliefs and opinions and you know. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it's about being mindful about the words that you use and why? Because words are very powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Exactly.
energy that you put into your words are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It would really have an effect on other people and on whatever it is that's happening around us.
Mm-hmm. So in relation with that, that's also the reason why in recent decades, in terms of news coverage or journalism, there another field has come up, or another particular practice has come up, which is called peace journalism. Because as you said, words hold power, and it can influence how people treat experiences and other people, right? So
Yes.
um, journalists who practice peace journalism are very careful about the nuances of the terms they use. For example, in the past, there the common practice was when what was that? So the emphasis, for example, when this is in the context of Mindanao, there
Mm-hmm.
were headlines wherein when it was about um, a particular crime or something negative, they always put, for example, two Muslim men kidnapped so and so. So later on,
Yeah.
because of being journalists being more conscious about the effect of this, because that creates
Yes.
stigma, and that also attaches labels and
Labels. That's right. Stereotypes.
prejudicial perspective on people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they became more aware and more careful about. um
The words that we are
yeah, the use of
using,
words.
especially a lot of people have access to them, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And in our work, it really has an impact. Like for example, people who are based in Mindanao, whenever they meet people from Manila, the first thing
Yes.
people from Manila would ask, isn't it parang, di ba magulo doon? O kaya, di ba
Scary
may gera doon?
there.
So, gera
Mm-mm.
agad.
Yeah.
But
Or
these
nakakatakot
are
that
all
it's scary to go to Mindanao.
nakakatakot daw. Yeah,
Diba?
but this only happens in particular areas actually in Mindanao and not the entire area. And for the past few decades, a lot of efforts have been going on, grassroots efforts for healing and reconciliation and for the peace
Yes.
process. And all that gets swept under the rug because of these prejudicial statements and programming
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm.
people.
And
So,
what's so important about words is that these words
mm,
they become our beliefs, right?
yes, exactly.
These
Hmm.
and once we have all these beliefs, we live our lives according to these beliefs. So if
Mm,
that's the kind of thing that we feed ourselves, then that's the kind of beliefs that we'll have of each other. So
mm,
again, going back to the first few things that we already talked about, how we treat others and how we use words, and then
mm,
how can we come from kindness and
mm,
compassion.
mm. Yes,
All right.
definitely. And I think the question raised by Karen will be answered by number 5. So we'll discuss this later. And yeah, Noral just said, Mashallah, we must be careful for choosing words sensitive enough in regards to Mindanao only. One thing I can say, don't say and don't comment until you see it in with your own eyes. So
Your own
that's
eyes. That's
another thing in terms of practicing um, nonviolent nonviolent communication and having clear healthy communication is actually to also validate what you hear from others. So
fact
this could also
check.
be fact check. So this can also apply in terms of the workplace, right? There can be gossip floating around and it can affect the relationships and it can divide teams and so this actually is applicable to any situation. And
That's
lastly,
right.
on the topic of communication is learning to come from that space of or perspective and attitude of learning. Because if this is a common thing I've also observed in a lot of instances, especially in on social media, when
Mm.
somebody when news about someone doing something wrong gets around, the tendency would be to condemn immediately that person without even knowing this person,
And the
who
whole
this person is
story.
and the whole story, all sides of
And
the
both
story,
sides,
huh?
exactly. All sides of the
Both
story.
sides of the story. So and then, for example, this person really did something wrong, so instead of condemning this person, why not try to help them correct their mistake? And if we have this attitude instead of having you know uh, infighting within groups or within communities, then we can be more proactive and even learn
That's
from the
right.
situation and
Yes,
institute whatever's needed for that situation to not happen again, right? So
exactly.
maybe you can
Right? Ask
cite some
yourself, what
examples.
is this trying to teach me? What is this experience
Exactly.
trying to teach me? Or what is this person trying to teach me? Once we open ourselves to that, I think it's easier to
Mm,
listen, and it's easier to take in things and see different perspectives, because there's a lot, right? And
exactly.
there are so many ways of looking at just one single thing or
Exactly.
situation. So it's really about, like what you said, open communication. How can we better understand it? And how can
In
we understand where these people are coming from? And
Yeah.
how
So
can
I'm
I
curious.
communicate where I am coming from also?
Exactly. And I'm just curious, teacher, like, could you cite like an anecdote or a personal, a specific experience where the practice of healthy communication, nonviolent communication, and an attitude of learning really help um, resolve a conflict or a situation?
You know what? I'll speak in general terms, no? You know how we sometimes tell ourselves stories?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for
Yeah.
example, I won't do this na lang because I think this is what's going to happen. Or I won't talk to that person because I'm pretty sure this is what they will say about me. Or I won't do this
Mm-hmm.
thing because I'm going to get judged. So all these things are just stories in our head. We have no
Yeah.
idea what will really happen after we do something, after we say something. But of course, yes, it's good to be planned. It's good to really think about what scenarios might come in. But let me remind ourselves that when we come from our truth, when
Mm-hmm.
try to check your intentions. What am I doing this for, ba? And so we have to
Mm-hmm.
get out of that thinking that these stories that we tell ourselves that are not useful naman, right? So
Yes.
we have to get out of that and then dive in for the truth. What is really going to happen? And then don't be attached to whatever it is that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Try to see
Mm-hmm.
again, what will I learn from this? Or what is this situation trying to teach me?
Mm-hmm.
So, for
In terms
example,
of, oh yeah, okay.
yes. So, for example, a couple, no? So, you know how sometimes uh sometimes a fight would start because this is what I think, and then the other person, but this is what I think, but they're not voicing it out. It's just in their heads, so it's gonna happen, right? You know, oh, for example, one couple were very annoyed pala with some practice or a habit or something, but you never voiced it out. So that
Mm-hmm.
person wouldn't know that you're getting annoyed pala with that. And oh, it would only take, you know what? I get affected when you do this. Right? Just voicing it out, just communicating where you are coming from. I think that would help
Mm-hmm.
a lot, no? And
True, true,
also,
true.
and also,
Mhm.
so for example, just like what you said, no? Not knowing the entire story, not knowing the perspectives. What if that person is only trying to help you, right? And then
True.
you attack it in such a way, but that's not helping me. But you're not telling that person. So that will keep
What
on
you need.
going. Diba? So it's really about opening that communication. So it's about having the courage to be vulnerable enough to admit
Mhm.
stuff or to
Mhm.
voice out your truth, to let your emotions be known.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
coming from that, I think that would really be helpful for the other person to understand. And especially if
Mhm.
these people matter to you, they have to know. You have to voice it out. And I know it's quite
Mhm.
hard because sometimes we have this notion that I think it's better if we just keep quiet,
Mhm.
right? I think some of us were brought that way. Na parang, no, you just have to listen and all that, right? But
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
this moment, it's very important to create that kind of space wherein we are safe to express ourselves, where it is
True.
safe for us to come from our authenticity, and where
Mhm.
it is safe for us to um to communicate what we need,
Mhm.
what we want, and what's going to make things better. And
True.
that will open up conversations that could lead to, moving things forward or loving
Exactly.
forward. No, I have this friend who would say, let's love forward. And I think that's beautiful.
So in relation with that, I think let's bring it down on the level of relationships in terms of parents and their children and boss and their
Yes.
staff,
Yes, exactly.
I like what you said about creating that healthy environment for people not to be afraid to express themselves openly.
Mm-mm,
And on the
mm-mm.
other hand, um, because this is another thing I've observed, um, there's a tendency, to for people to treat feedback as like parang away agad.
Criticism,
Parang iniinsulto mo
oo.
ako. And there's a
So
way
that's the
of,
judgment na,
yeah, that's judgment. And
right?
there's a
And
way
that's
of
on
actually,
you.
yeah, and sometimes it's the way people say it. And I think it's important also for us to learn healthier ways to express ourselves, like the I message. So instead of saying your feedback in such a way that, you're so stubborn, why don't you do this, you can say, coming from your perspective, whenever you do this, and separate the action from the person. Don't label that person as,
Yes.
because you're doing this, you're so and so na, no, you're stubborn,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
you're really stubborn. So separate the label, or the action, sorry, separate the
The
action
action to the
from the
person.
person. And then you can say, whenever this happens, I feel, or this is what happens to me, this is how I feel. And
Yes.
so the responsibility, the other person doesn't get defensive, because the person giving feedback also takes responsibility that this is what you're doing, and whenever you do this, this
Mm-hmm,
is how it affects me. So you might
mm-hmm,
not be aware of it, or it
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
might not be hindi sinasadya, pwedeng hindi siya sinasadya, pero yun ang
Yeah.
effect sa akin.
Yeah.
So yan,
Because
it's a
yes,
healthier
and,
way
mm-mm.
of
And that's
giving
another
feedback.
thing, no? Once you get to communicate that, you get to reflect. Why do I feel that way whenever that happens?
Hmm.
Because that's another way of looking
Exactly.
at it.
You also
Go
ask
back
help.
and yes,
Can
you
can you
you
help
turn
me
the
on?
understand? Parang turn the camera
Uh,
inwards. Wait lang. Why am I feeling this way? Is there something that
hmm,
I also need to work on? Because again, two sides of the
exactly,
story. It's not just the
exactly.
other person or the other side, diba?
It's not just
So,
blaming immediately. You. The other person gets
so that
defensive,
you're
and
not
then
victimizing yourself. So
yeah,
you take your
and
power
demonizing
and
the other.
yes,
You're not victimizing yourself. You're not
you're
demonizing
not
the other. You
demonizing the
take
other.
responsibility for that.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, go back to, oo nga, why am I feeling this way? Is this coming from
Hmm.
who I truly am? Is it my ego? Is it, so is it an insecurity? So that will allow you to reflect and then ask, what is it that I need ba
Yes,
right
exactly.
now? And then coming from there, you can already address if you should be able to take responsibility nga. So how can you address what
Hmm.
you need? And then how can you
Exactly.
communicate that with the other party?
I saw a comment earlier talking about the importance of listening, and I think that's also an important ingredient in healthy communication and nonviolent communication, which is to really be an active listener. You're not just listening to reply, to have a ano yun, yung parang meron kang pangsagot agad,
Yes.
parang debate. It's not a
Oh,
debate.
it's not a debate.
It's a dialogue, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember something. So there's this couple. It's actually Jay Shetty and his wife. So they were interviewed, and they were talking about how they resolve conflicts within their marriage. And then what they say was, we always treat it as us tackling a problem, not
Instead
him,
of
not
yes
me versus her,
versus you.
right? So the two of
Mm-hmm.
you are working together to
Mm-hmm.
solve this issue.
Yes,
You're
at
a
the end of the day,
team.
yes. Which brings me no to a comment that says, "Can you please
Mm,
comment on current issues which are dividing us right now?" So there, it's right there. Which is I think what you said, no, really helps
mm,
that
mm.
a lot. Now, we're all tackling the same thing. I
Mhm.
mean, if you will look at it on a global level or at a national level, and
Yes.
then so yeah, we have to admit, yes, there is a divide, but then
Mm.
again, how can we how can it be better for us? Then I'll
Mm.
go back to, again, treating each other the way we want to be treated, with
Mhm.
respect, right? And then, like what
Mhm.
we said, with loving kindness and compassion,
Mhm.
and with open communication,
Yeah.
trying to understand where we are coming from, right? And then looking
True.
at
True.
things in different perspectives. So I think all these things that we are listing down,
Mhm.
these are the things that we can go back to when it comes to whatever divide we have right now, as individuals, as communities,
Yes.
as a country.
Mhm. Mhm. So for the actually the other questions are interrelated, and we'll be answering that with um in number 5. So we'll just take a quick break and we'll be back in a minute. See you.
so that we can just help people stay calm and spread calm at this time. And if we can just really lighten the load of everybody, and lalo na with the social distancing that's being done, we kind of feel alone. Even now, we're still on lockdown. And I just want people to know that, guys, you're not alone. Kaya natin to. Together we can do this. That's why we have programs every Tuesday, every Thursday. There's a class or a workshop which is free to the community so everybody can come together.
Here are our programs on personal growth and healing for you.
Hello, we're back.
We're back.
And to
30
answer
minutes na
Karen,
pala yun, ay.
correct, 'di ba? Ang dami. Nasa ano tayo, top 4, and now we're going to 5, 6, and 7. And for the fifth one, actually, this is another reminder is this is what I also learned in the um, peace building and conflict transformation field area of work. So usually mediators would facilitate mediation processes in this way to really find and focus on the common need, or I mean the need of each party, and what's the common aspiration, what's the
Goal.
common vision, what's the common, yeah, what, where can they meet and work together versus focus focusing on the position. Because if you
Mhm.
focus on the position, hardline agad yun eh. If if you're talking about the
That's
pro-vax
a
and
divide na
anti-vax,
eh, right?
there's a divide already. So you're already establishing that there's a separation and I'm not moving. This is my
That's right.
position and it's my way or
So
the
again,
highway, right?
it's like a debate na again. Like, who's gonna
Exactly.
win? It's
Instead of
not
a
about
dialogue.
that. Yeah. So it's not a
Exactly.
competition. That's what we always say. It's not a competition anymore,
Mm.
especially right at this moment. What we want is collaboration and sharing
Yes, yes.
spaces and sharing, whatever gifts that we have so that we could all thrive, hopefully together, right?
Mhm. And for example, so one concrete example, I was able to also witness how some facilitators um, started, or how they would break the ice between two conflicting parties. So, for
Mm.
example, in the case of the negotiating panels for the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the government of the Philippines. So, of course, they have their respective positions because they are trying to respond to the needs of who they are representing, right? The interest of who they're representing. Usually the facilitator would begin with this question. He or she would go around the circle and ask each individual, so what's your personal aspiration or goal? What would you like to achieve? Or what are you dreaming of for the future? And most of these people are like old men, like grandparents, and the usual
Mm-mm.
reply is, I would like to um, retire in a farm and enjoy life with
Peacefully.
peacefully with my kids and my grandkids.
Mm.
And you often hear common dreams and common aspirations, and from there, they there will immediately be sorry immediately be a connection when you see what's common among you.
And it's their
And then,
dream.
yeah, their dream. And for example, the peace panels, they did not, of course, they are in an act of negotiation, and they have their own positions. I mean, they're negotiating for something, but of course, they're focusing on the common end goal, which is peace and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
harmony and sustainable development in the Philippines and in Mindanao. So if you're coming from
Mm.
that perspective, a higher common vision, then it's easier to go beyond that sense of
Yeah.
separation and that sense of, and
Yes.
and
It
the
allows
same
you to
goes
step
with,
back and appreciate the fact that, hey, oo nga no, we want the same things. How can we work towards that instead?
and we're all human beings with the same needs and with the same
Yes.
dreams. Instead of looking at the other person as this and that or whatever role that person is playing. So it's easier to come together and work on a common solution. And I've also seen that in interreligious dialogue situations, and like for example, people of the Islamic faith, Ca- Catholic
Catholic
faith,
faith.
Christian faith, and Jewish faith, they would talk about what's common among the three. And one thing that's common is they're all Abrahamic religions. They come from the same lineage. And if you look at the literature, the Bible, the Torah, the
Quran.
Quran, there's
There are
the
similarities,
same the
common
same
themes.
the same characters are there. Like Mary is Maryam in the Quran, Mother Mary, and then the other characters we know in the Bible, they're also mostly in the
Present
Quran
there.
and in the
Mm-hmm.
Torah. So, and for example, Hinduism and Christianity and other religions, when you study comparative
Mm-hmm.
religions, the law of karma, or
The
that's
message,
also
the
that's
lesson,
known as the golden rule.
rule.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's universal values and knowledge. And when you're also coming from that, what's common among us? So it's easier to connect and
That's right.
feel
And that
that,
bridges the gap.
uh, yes, that bridges also the gap. Focus on the common end goal ahead. Thank you. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig at something. so, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So,
at
for
the end of the
example,
day, mhm. Sorry, I'll go back to I think
yeah.
I mentioned this earlier, no? We were asking what
Mhm.
is this situation trying to teach us? And then go back to all these teachings at the end of the day, what is the lesson? What is the
Exactly.
message? And that
Yeah.
brings us back to loving kindness and compassion.
Mhm.
'Di ba? I think
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
things transcend cultures, religions, age, gender,
Mhm.
race. So, yeah, we all go back to that. We all have,
Yeah.
we're all one and the same at the end of the day, that even if we are all unique from each other. That's another
And that's
universal
not,
law, right?
yeah, and that's not limited to the spiritual realm, or the
Yes.
it's not
It
what
transcends
others
that
would call
thing.
woo-woo stuff. It's
Mm-mm.
actually literal, kasi quantum physics has proven that we are all interconnected. Yeah, in terms of the field theory and all various studies that just Google quantum physics and you'll see we're all one and interconnected. And even the concept of, biodiversity, the ecosystem, from there you
Yes.
can really see that
See how
the
we are
action
all
of
connected
one
to each
affects the
other.
rest. Yes,
Mm-hmm,
yes.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it would be more beneficial if we work together and for the good
Rather than
of the for the
everyone.
common good.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
rather than fighting against each
Each
other.
other. Yes.
And what else? So yeah, for example, in the family, if like you're having there's a conflict between parent and a child,
Children or
at the end
parents
of the
between the two
day,
parents. Yeah.
or two parents, at the end of the day, you know, usually the parent just like wants the best for their kids, right? And at the end of the day, um, or most often, a child or a daughter or son just wants their parents to be proud of them. So,
And the
you
parents
know,
would say
some
that they just want to be
or
happy,
appreciation, or they
or
feel
yeah, they want their kids
loved.
to be happy naman.
Exactly. And maybe they see, maybe based on their personal experience, they're seeing red flags in how they're in the path that their child is taking. That's why they're going against it or something. So when both parties are coming from that space of, okay, how can I support you,
Yes.
how can I
What
understand you
is
better,
needed right
what do
here?
you need right now, so you can also bridge the gap better.
Yes. Which makes us go back to open communication.
Yes.
Right?
So
And
these
then
are all interconnected.
non-judgment. Yes, which brings us to non-judgment again, na parang not just because a child is behaving a certain way,
Mhm.
we could label that child as something else, when in reality, a
True.
behavior can be a manifestation of a concern, of an issue
Exactly.
or a need that is not met, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's not just for a child, it's for everyone.
For everyone.
'Di ba? So
Yeah.
again,
The
what kind
need
of
for
spaces are
affirmation,
kind of
the need.
spaces are we creating for each other and for ourselves?
Exactly. Exactly. Hmm. Okay, so how I think I saw a question earlier, but I was not able to read it. Your message echoes the theme of the class this Thursday, reclaiming our oneness, the healing power of community and
Yes,
inclusivity.
yes.
So, yeah, so we're encouraging everyone to also join the class on Thursday by Miss Angge Herrera, because she has been authentic and honest enough to really confront that issue of separation and division
Mm-hmm,
within,
mm-hmm,
even
mm-hmm,
within their organization. So there she
mm-hmm.
will share about her journey in learning to, accept that and
Yes,
bridge the gap also with her
correct.
fellow staff, fellow coworkers, and that will be an
Mm-hmm.
interesting session. And I think she created the workshop, so like people will
Ah,
be
with
experiencing the journey
OHC,
as well.
no? Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
that's one way of this makes me remember what we talked about earlier, I when it was just the two of us, that we
Mhm.
all have our roles to play, right? So it's
Yeah.
best, and
Segue.
I loved it when you put this together. Work within your sphere of influence.
Hmm.
Diba?
So that's
Let's
number 6.
try. That's number 6. And it's best if we try to zero in on what we do best and
Yeah.
allow ourselves to come again from our authenticity, from our from who we really are, and echo
Mhm.
that, and then come from there, so that that's the kind of energy we're putting out there. Let
Yeah.
us leave those who are good in their own ways na to do their own kind of thing, so that we can
True.
choose our
True.
battles. 'Di ba? We're going to spend energy na rin lang naman. We don't want to spend it on something we do not know. we do not understand, and we do not want to spend our energies, you know, fighting or creating
Exactly.
that divide pa. So might as well
Mm.
use that energy to create something that we really want to create, that is aligned with our intentions, that is aligned with
Mhm.
our purpose, and that will, make this world a better place to live in. We can do that in our own
Exactly.
ways, no matter how
Example.
little or how small that is. Example nga is the workshop that will happen this Thursday, right? And I think that's
Mm-mm.
the magic of online healing community also. A lot of people are already doing so many movements and creating not creating space, online healing community zeroed in on healers, on healing, on learning, and that's a good thing to do during the pandemic. And I believe
True,
that
true.
that is the parang that's the forte of this group, of this community. Then we focus on that. Then we can
Mhm.
make a difference. Then we could make a
Mhm.
huge impact that can help people instead of divide people.
Exactly. So that's a great example you shared. The reason for being of OHC is actually to respond to a particular need. Most of us could have just complained and reacted negatively or wallowed in, feeling sorry for ourselves when the lockdown started. But instead of doing that, we all came together with a
Mhm,
common goal
mhm.
to
We're
help
not saying that
our
it's bad to
fellow.
like wallow and feel our
Yeah, yeah, it's
pains and feel, diba? But what's good is that we were able to go beyond
mm,
that and move forward
yeah,
from
go
that,
beyond that.
right?
Well,
It's
of course, we all experience at one point during the pandemic
yes,
also
yes. So we
feeling
acknowledge
anxious,
that, right?
but
Mm-hmm.
because of the community, we were also able to go beyond
Lift
that,
each other.
you
Yes.
know, and
Mm-mm-mm.
lift each other up. When
Mm-hmm.
somebody would be tired of serving, so the others would step
Another one
up,
will come. Yes.
and
Yes.
another one will come in. And as healers, we also experience fatigue, and our fellow
Burnout.
healers would also heal
Right.
us to help us
Yes.
through that rut.
Yes. And that's the beauty of a community. And see,
Mm,
how we have bridged the gap between different kinds of people from different kinds of
yeah,
backgrounds
modalities and
and
backgrounds.
modalities. So yeah, instead of creating a divide between all these people,
Mm.
we brought them together. You and Karen brought them us together, and look
Everyone.
and diba? And look at the space that we have
Mm,
right now. It is a
mm,
safe space to share stories and reflections. It's a safe
yes.
space to voice out concerns and problems and challenges. And definitely, it's a space for healing and learning. And see
Mm,
the beauty in
exactly.
that. And if again,
Mm,
again, if we could all create these spaces of non-judgment and of loving kindness and compassion and respect, then
mm,
I think a lot of issues will be, dealt with in a much better
mm,
way.
mm. And in relation with that sixth point, work within your sphere of influence. Just to give people a sense of hope, because this also has been a common experience. Like families have been split down the middle, and organizations have been split down the middle because of differences in political ideology and pro or anti admin, and that has really caused like great emotional pain. And that's what Miss Angge will be talking about, and how she was able to overcome it and heal it, and with her with her colleagues in the organization. But
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to witness also and be one of the documenters for processes that has been going on since the early part of this year. Of it's called generative conversations. Like people from the two sides came together and started talking, really talking. And that's also how they started um they would start the conversation with, "How are you doing this pandemic?" So of course, they would
It's making
share common experiences,
connections.
and that
Yes.
would establish connection. And then they would talk about the issues
That's
that they may not agree on, and they would try to understand the other side, and then try to come up with a common vision and common aspiration that they can work together towards. So this is very important because this is also one of the things that has caused divide. And like next year, I think the elections is coming up, and we really need to start having these hard conversations because it has been affecting families, organizations, friends,
yes,
splitting people
relationships.
apart.
Yes, yes, yes.
And there's another way to deal with these differences. And we've presented some some steps and
Yeah.
suggestions, and we hope that this could also help you with your own process. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, we're not saying that it's easy, or we're not saying that
Of
we're
course.
perfect
It's going
in
to be
in the
tough.
execution of all of these, but just having that willingness and openness and courage to start
Yeah.
talking, really talking and
Communicating,
listening to each
right?
other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we can all start.
If I may just also add, no, I started with saying that treat others how you would want to be treated. But again, as a self-love solution teacher, I cannot not say this. I think
Exactly.
we can all start with treating yourself the way you want to be treated. You want to be treated with respect? Respect yourself first. You want your opinions to
Exactly.
matter or to be valued? Value your opinions first. You want to be treated with love and compassion and kindness? Treat yourself with love and compassion and kindness first. Because once you do so, once you fill yourself with all these things, it will naturally overflow, and that's what you will be able to share with others. Imagine if each person
Mm.
is doing that kind of practice, then all the overflows will be
Mm.
filled with love and kindness and compassion. So imagine what kind of communities will be brought together and what kind of communities will be built. And that will create a ripple effect, right? So again, yes, I may have started by talking about treating others the way you want to be treated, but it all boils down to how you also treat yourself. Be-
Exactly.
Because when you are in complete integration with your whole self, there's no divide there. Then that's what you
Hmm.
emit, and then that's what you attract as well. And that's what you want. So you will not create that
Mm.
divide because you are
And
whole.
have you noticed, usually fights happen when
Mm.
like people are in that space of being fatigued, and
Yes. At the height of
and
these big emotions.
big emotions. That's when they get triggered a lot, and it's hard to understand the other, where the other person is coming from if you yourself
Exactly.
is are already like your top is already blowing off. You
Diba?
cannot see clearly because
Maybe you
of all
needed
that
lang pala to
heightened
rest.
emotions.
Maybe you needed lang pala
Exactly.
to nurture yourself. And then after that, oh, all right. Because again, the space that you want for everyone, create that space for yourself first. Once you have that around yourself, it's going to be easier for you to be able to like do all the things that you need to do to create that space for other people.
True. I also experienced that because, like I mentioned earlier, I tended to be more critical of other people and, quite violent in terms of speech. I might not verbalize it, but in my mind,
In
like a
your
lot
head,
of
you
things
say
are
it.
going on. But, when I became more compassionate towards myself, and when I was able to accept the the seemingly quote unquote unlovable things about myself, then I was able to be more compassionate also with other people.
Exactly, exactly. Because again, then that brings us to that we are all one and the same. What you recognize in me. hopefully it will be easier to recognize that in other people. And then again, how you treat yourself, that's how you will be treated by others, and that's how you will also treat others. And if that
True.
if you want to be, again, if you want respect, give yourself respect. If you want love, give yourself love, and that's what will come out from you.
True. And that's the importance of spaces like what we're creating at online healing community, right? Spaces
Yes,
for people to learn tools, to take care of themselves,
that's
and
right.
to practice mindfulness, to live more consciously, and to be more loving and caring towards the self.
And
So
then to
yeah,
others, right?
and that's our role in the bigger scheme of things.
That's right. Yeah, healing and learning ultimately,
Mm,
because whatever path you choose to take, it would require you to practice these things, not just when there is a divide, but also when you are taking care of a space already and you don't want that divide to happen.
exactly, exactly. That's good also. You don't wait for it to happen. So it's just like in health. You don't wait for your body to get sick. You
Yes.
you already do preventive measures to keep your body
Yes,
healthy,
yes,
right?
yes. Di ba?
Keep
Mhm,
your
mhm.
immunity strong.
Mhm, mhm.
All
So
right.
yeah,
So,
I think we were able to sum that up.
mhm. So those are our seven guidelines or tips, or in terms of creating a bridge, it can be building blocks to build the bridge.
That's right. To bridge the gap,
And we've
no?
true. And you can also share in the comments below what also helped you to bridge
That's
those
right.
gaps.
It's not,
Of
this is not an exclusive list.
Yeah, you
It's not
can
even,
add
choose whatever works for you and then share whatever
exactly.
works for you.
So Noralja said we must be sensitive enough because everyone has own idea. We have different level of
That's
understanding.
right. That's right.
Mhm. Siyang tunay nga po na ang pakikinig ay isang forma ng pagrespeto at pagmamahal. Respect and love. That's also an important ingredient. Catherine said there's a way to convey our message and also how we receive the other person.
Yes. You mentioned that
Mm,
earlier, Ai. There's always a better way of communicating.
true, true. Facebook
Oh,
user said, Dai, thank you so much for the wonderful work you do. It's always so lovely to see your beautiful face and hear your lovely words. Thank you for all the healing you bless upon the earth. Thank you.
that's
Thank you for the
lovely.
words of affirmation.
Yes.
And I'm very blessed to have gone through that journey and to have witnessed all those wonderful and inspiring stories on the ground, like efforts of people really coming together and overcoming their differences, working towards the same vision and dream and making the world a
Mhm.
better place. And
I
of
love
course,
listening to your stories about Mindanao, Ai, actually.
the worst violence can be in the thoughts we have all to ourselves.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, and of course, props to teachers like Lay, Karen, and everyone. Everyone's here. Everyone who's here. We're also sure that you're doing great in your own respective
Field,
fields,
path, yeah.
and may we all um, be able to extend this sense of oneness and harmony in each space that we co-create with other people or with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as always, we usually close with a meditation or with an exercise or with poetry. And so tonight, for me, I think one important ingredient also for us to achieve uh, this process, or to really bridge the gap of differences, is to allow forgiveness. to flow from our hearts. Forgiveness towards ourselves for things we may have done or not have done that may have caused sorrow to others and pain to others. And forgiveness towards other people who may have caused us the same pain or suffering. So I would like to invite everyone to sit tall on your seats, find a comfortable position, and breathe deeply. So just inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. As you inhale, inhale the energies of love, peace, and understanding. And as you exhale, exhale the energies, the heavy energies of fear, doubt, and all the negativities that's causing separation. As we inhale, let's inhale divine healing light, love, and power. And as we exhale, let's exhale all those illusions of separation, division, and being different than another person. So, for those who are ready, you may join in this forgiveness prayer. If you're not yet ready, you can just keep breathing in and out deeply and just enjoy that loving space of peace, calmness, and warmth. So, for the forgiveness ritual, you may imagine yourself in front of you and tell yourself, if it helps, you can imagine yourself as a little girl or little boy, and you can tell yourself, we are all evolving. We all make mistakes. I've learned from my mistakes. I forgive you, and I release all the energies of pain, frustration, doubt, anger towards you that I've been harboring. You are forgiven. The matter is forgotten. Go in peace. You may also imagine yourself hugging this child and imagine the child smiling brightly and being freed from guilt and shame and all the negative energies that come with committing mistakes. Now, you can start with one person. Think of a person who may have hurt you and that who you would like to forgive. You may also imagine this person as a little boy or little girl in front of you if it helps. Or you can imagine the person as a bright light. Then, lovingly say to the person, we are all evolving. We all make mistakes. I also make mistakes and I've learned from my mistakes. I forgive you. The matter is forgiven. You can go in peace. And once again, imagine this person also glowing with a big smile on their face and releasing all the energies of guilt, of shame, frustration, self-loathing, probably because of whatever mistake or wrongdoing they may have done towards you. Imagine that person skipping away. You may also embrace the person if you're ready, or if you would like to express that long, that love and care that you've held back for so long because of that difference that you've held on to. All right, breathe in and breathe out as you imagine this picture in front of you melting away and dissolving. And we may also put our hands like this in a blessing position, level with our hearts, so palms facing outward, level with our hearts. Imagine the earth like a small ball in front of you, and let's pray together to the Supreme God. Thank you for blessing every person, every being on earth with harmony, with peace, with deeper spirituality, with self introspection, with hope, love, peace, and mercy. Thank you for helping us to overcome our sense of division and separateness. Thank you for reminding us of everything that's common within all of us, all the qualities, all the values that we all share, especially in terms of our original nature. Each of us are made in your image and likeness, and so too shall we be channels and instruments of blessing instead of instruments or sources of division. Thank you for blessing us with the authenticity, with the courage to start doing these dialogues between and among family members, friends, fellow Filipinos, and other people. And for those who are also more inclined to it, you can also include other beings within with this in this conversation, especially in terms of healing Mother Earth. With thanks and in full faith, so be it. May we all be blessed with oneness, with harmony and peace. Okay. Take 3 more cleansing breaths. Inhale, exhale, inhale. Enjoy the energies of joy and bliss. And exhale. And one last cleansing breath. Inhale the energies of healing and oneness. And exhale. As you exhale, you may open your eyes with a great big smile.
Thank you
Wow,
so
thank
much
you.
for that, I.
How do you feel?
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we have created a good space tonight. I thank you.
True. And may this types of conversations continue on. And as we said earlier, we invite everyone to join the Thursday class because that's exactly what's going to happen also. So let this be just the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And any um, parting words for tonight?
I I just love how, you know what, during the pandemic, when the pandemic started, I tried to veer away from this kind of thing, tackling the divide, the separation, and it is a good
Mm,
start for me. And it is also a reminder for me, where can we come from? Let's come from kindness
mm,
and love instead of from fear and hate and anger and all those stuff, right? So yeah, it's a great reminder for me. And at the end of the day, it makes me also reflect, what is
mm.
it that I want to give myself, so that that's what I could give to others too.
Thank you.
There.
And
Thank you
and
for
for
allowing me
me,
to be here. What about you?
thank thank you for sharing this space with me and holding space tonight. Yeah, for me, same thing. I also avoided talking about all these things. Especially as healers, we would like to really come from um, regenerating energies, positive energies, and regenerating words and all that. But sometimes in order for transformation to happen, we really need to also acknowledge what's there and what what needs to be transformed, or right, because unless we are aware or we give attention to that, then it might just keep staying that way, right? In terms of personal transformation also, we have this practice in pranic healing where we do inner reflection and firm resolution every day, where we reflect on what we did during the day and the things that we did well. We congratulate ourselves, and then we also, try to learn the lessons from our mistakes and imagine ourselves doing better the next time.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's really a process. So we're not saying this could just happen overnight, but
Yes, it
it's
will take.
important.
It'll take a village. It'll take a community.
Yeah, it takes a village and a community. That's why it's important to work together also. So, yeah, but it's not impossible. So, thank you, ladies, for tonight's kind
Thank
space.
you for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Maloy, for joining and for contributing your energy. So, as we all each individually work towards bridging these differences and working for harmony and our common aspirations and dreams, then, you know, each step will be easier for the rest. As I think Marianne Williamson also says, no, it's another, it's in one poem by Nancy Smith. It's actually it's called For Every Woman, but she ended it in this way: for every woman who takes a step towards her own liberation, a man finds that the way has been easier. So I think it goes the same for any kind of
Mm,
situation
mhm,
or
mhm,
topic
mhm.
or issue. You know, as more and more people takes a courageous step forward in trying to bridge that divide, more and more people will
Yeah.
also find inspiration.
Yes.
That's, I
Again,
mean,
common
that's where
goal, higher
that's where
purpose.
I found for example, that's where I found inspiration in the negotiating panel of the peace process in
Yes.
interreligious dialogue. So I know that it's possible. That's why I'm so confident to talk about these things.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much. I have learned a lot from you, I.
and me too. I mean, what you're doing is very important because the family is the basic unit of society, and everything starts in the family too.
The
So
self, right?
and the self and you know how we raise our kids and each other.
Yes. Yes.
How we raise each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's nice.
so I think that's it for tonight. That was a wonderful discussion, dialogue, and thank you to everyone who stayed with us and shared their insights and inspirations as well. Creating space happens every Tuesday, usually at 6:30, but watch
Yeah.
out for other changes. And for next week, you'll be hearing from Karen and her guest. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.